Hello everyone, welcome to our channel, TJ Comments and Answers. I hope you all are doing well. In this video, we are going to prepare for the book study, Complete Testimony, for the week of July 1st to July 7th. This week, we will be studying chapter 12, paragraphs 1 to 6, and the box on page 96. So, let's get started. Question 1 and 2. What happened to Paul and Barnabas in Lystra? Paul and Barnabas healed a man who had been crippled from birth, which caused the crowd to acclaim them as gods. The priest of Zeus prepared bulls and garlands to sacrifice in their honor, but Paul and Barnabas had to shout and tear their clothes to stop the people. Then, some Jews from Iconium and Antioch in Pisidia incited the crowd against them, resulting in Paul being stoned until he was unconscious and then dragged out of the city, presumed dead. Additional comments. Acts 14, 8-10 narrates how Paul healed the man who was crippled from birth in Lystra. This miracle demonstrated God's power and his approval of Paul and Barnabas's ministry, which initially led the people to worship them. However, it is important to note how quickly their opinions changed, reminding us of the fickle nature of humans and the need to remain firm in our faith regardless of popular opinion. In Acts 14, 19-20, it describes how some Jews from Iconium and Antioch in Pisidia incited the crowd to stone Paul, who was presumed dead but got up and continued his mission. This underscores Paul's perseverance and courage, reminding us of the importance of continuing our Christian work even in the face of extreme adversity. Question 3. What questions will we answer in this chapter? This chapter will answer the following questions. How did things get to this terrible point? What do we learn from what happened to Paul, Barnabas, and the capricious crowd in Lystra? How can congregation elders imitate the perseverance of Paul and Barnabas, who preached boldly by the authority of Jehovah? Additional comments. Acts 14:3 mentions that Paul and Barnabas preached boldly by the authority of Jehovah. This verse highlights the source of their courage and perseverance, showing that their strength did not come from themselves but from their trust in God. Elders and preachers today can learn from this example, always seeking divine guidance and support in their work. Acts 14:4-7 shows that despite growing opposition, Paul and Barnabas continued preaching, and many people became believers. This example illustrates how the gospel message can thrive even in difficult circumstances, encouraging us to be persistent and trust that God will bless our sincere efforts. Question 4 and 5. Why did Paul and Barnabas go to Iconium, and what happened there? Paul and Barnabas went to Iconium after being expelled from Antioch in Pisidia by some Jews who opposed their message. They shook the dust off their feet against those people and left without losing their joy. In Iconium, an important city in the Roman province of Galatia, they preached in the synagogue, and many Jews and Greeks became believers. Additional comments. Acts 13:50-52 describes how Paul and Barnabas were expelled from Antioch in Pisidia, but instead of being discouraged, they shook the dust off their feet and continued their mission with joy. This teaches us the importance of not being disheartened by rejection and maintaining a positive and persistent attitude in our spiritual work. Matthew 10:14 mentions Jesus' instruction to his disciples to shake the dust off their feet when they were not received. This action symbolized leaving behind the opposition and moving forward with their mission. Paul and Barnabas applied this principle, demonstrating their willingness to obey Jesus' instructions and their determination to keep preaching despite the opposition. Box comments: Iconium, city of the Phrygns. Comment 1, Location and prosperity of Iconium. Iconium was on a fertile, well-watered plateau, making it an ideal place for agriculture. Additionally, it was on an important trade route between Syria, Rome, Greece, and the Roman province of Asia. This meant that many people passed through there to trade, making the city very prosperous and a good place to preach, as many people from different places could hear the message. Comment 2, Religion and culture in Iconium. The people of Iconium worshipped Cybele, a fertility goddess, and had religious customs adopted from the Greeks. Although Iconium was under Roman control, it continued to prosper thanks to trade and agriculture. This diverse cultural context presented both challenges and opportunities for Paul and Barnabas, as they had to preach in a place with many different beliefs. Comment 3, Jewish influence and Greek culture. There were many influential Jews in Iconium, but the city maintained its Greek culture. The Book of Acts mentions Jews and Greeks in Iconium, showing that it was a city with a mix of cultures. This was important for Paul and Barnabas, as they could preach to both Jews and Gentiles, taking advantage of the diversity of the population. Comment 4, Accuracy of the Book of Acts. Some critics said that the Book of Acts was inaccurate for not mentioning that Iconium was part of Lycaonia. However, archaeological discoveries in 1910 showed that another language, Phrygian, was spoken in Iconium even centuries after Paul and Barnabas's visit. This confirms that Luke, the writer of Acts, was accurate in describing Iconium as different from the cities of Lycaonia. Comment 5, Importance of historical research. The discovery of Phrygian inscriptions in Iconium 2 centuries after Paul and Barnabas's visit demonstrates the accuracy of Luke's account in Acts. This highlights the importance of historical and archaeological research to better understand the biblical context. These findings help us appreciate the veracity of biblical accounts and the precision with which they were written. Question 6. Why were Paul and Barnabas such good teachers, and how can we imitate them? Paul and Barnabas were good teachers because Paul had extensive biblical knowledge and knew how to connect historical accounts, quotes from the law, and prophecies to prove that Jesus was the promised Messiah. Barnabas stood out for his interest in others. They both spoke by the authority of Jehovah, instead of relying on their own opinions. To imitate them, one must study God's Word thoroughly, select biblical quotes that capture people's interest, seek ways to comfort those who listen, and always base teachings on the Bible. Additional comments. Paul and Barnabas were good teachers for several reasons. Paul, he had a deep knowledge of the Bible, knew how to connect historical accounts, quotes from the law, and prophecies to prove that Jesus was the promised Messiah. Barnabas, he stood out for his interest in others and his ability to comfort those who listened. We can imitate them by studying God's Word thoroughly, selecting biblical quotes that capture people's interest, seeking ways to comfort those who listen, always basing our teachings on the Bible instead of our own opinions. Acts 13:15-31 shows how Paul used the scriptures to connect historical accounts and prophecies, demonstrating that Jesus was the Messiah. His deep knowledge of the Bible and his ability to teach convincingly are qualities we can strive to develop through diligent study of God's Word. Acts 4:36-37 describes Barnabas as a generous and faithful man, known for his ability to encourage others. His example encourages us to cultivate a spirit of generosity and mutual support in our congregation, always seeking to comfort and strengthen our brothers and sisters in faith. Acts 9:27 highlights Barnabas as someone who supported and introduced Paul to the apostles when no one else trusted him. This act of support and trust in others is a model for us in how we can encourage and back our fellow believers, helping them to develop their gifts and ministries. Well, those have been the practical answers for this week's congregation book study. I hope they are very helpful to you, my dear brothers and sisters. I send you a big hug, and may Jehovah always bless and protect you.